Good morning, everyone. Today we have a very special guest. She's a Jungian Psychoanalyst, astrologer, and author, specializing in Jungian psychology, authentic movement, Eastern spiritual traditions, also formerly the resident astrologer for UKL, the beautiful, our friend, SHERENE Vismaya. Good morning, SHERENE. You're so beautiful. Welcome. Welcome. Seeing that you love music and your awareness of its power to unravel emotions, how can we connect in our journey to discover the depths of our truth through music?
I love that question. So for me, in my own personal journey, and I have witnessed this work on a lot of people, that, you know, how people say that there's a music, like there's a soundtrack to our lives kind of thing. And sometimes people even wake up with like song lyrics in their head. So it feels, it feels like music is a way that the unconscious actually communicates with us. And it's also the way that we connect to our own spirit and soul. That's why we love to dance. And that's why music concerts, you really see that people come into this like ecstatic, out of body, otherworldly experience, right? When you're like at your favorite concert, you know? There's something so transcendent and embodied at the same time.
I love that. There's so much freedom in dance, and I think sometimes we forget that it's almost like paramount for us to have movement in our lives, right? Really connect to the sounds that we connect to. But it's in this like finding that connection, was there just like a moment where you were like, oh, I can really use this to like help people? Like, when was that moment?
That's really important because that happened when I was in New York City and I was working with a group of women, and I couldn't figure out how to get them into the deeper layers of their rage, fear, depression, emotions that were like talking wasn't enough. So I thought, well, I use dance as therapy for myself. Like I was still going to Broadway Dance Center and, you know, using that as my medicine to like work out all the things. So I thought, okay, I've got this psychological background and, you know, I'm doing this talk therapy, and I was doing this group work with these women in New York City. And I had a little loft studio at the time in Chinatown. And I remember the moment actually, because I said, God, like we're just not getting to it. We're not getting to like the deeper stuff, you know? So maybe we have to just put on some music. Let me just see what happens. Like, what's your favorite song? So I would ask each woman, like, okay, what's like your song? Like your, at that time, you know, it was like Alanis Morissette's You Ought to Know. It was like the big anthem where people would like work it out, you know? Like, so I said, like, what's like your Alanis Morissette Ought to Know song? Like, what's that song for you? So I would take each person's song. They would bring in their song. And I would say, just like completely go free form, like uncensored, full Kali. We used to actually call it Kali dance, like goddess Kali, who's like the most fierce goddess. Like just like let everything out, you know, like no ego, just complete, unhinged, like just go there. Just let yourself go complete wild, instinctual, like nobody's watching you. And it was amazing to see what came out. Like so much power that had been submerged under the nice girl persona that so many of us, especially in that era, because that was like pre-Me Too and all of that, you know? And so it was really pretty revolutionary at the time for women to like actually find this fierce, empowered, embodied, even using their voice and their movement to move through all of those fears and blocks and inhibition, censorship over self-expression. So it was really profound. And from there, I was experimenting with movement and therapy. Because it's funny, I actually wanted to be a dance therapist. You know, when I first moved to New York, I thought, well, I love dance. Why don't I look into that? But they only had it in a very kind of clinical hospital setting type of training. And I didn't want to do that. So I couldn't figure out how to like bridge my MTV dance video, Broadway Dance Center life with therapy, deep Jungian psychoanalysis, like working with the unconscious, with the symbolic, with astrology, with tarot. I was like, there's got to be a way to put all this stuff together. So then little by little, like I met the right teachers and I kind of got the right influences. And I honestly sort of rediscovered something that was already in existence I didn't know about because we didn't have like the internet situation like we have now back in the 90s, like where you knew what everyone was doing everywhere, So I found out later in life because of the internet that there was something called authentic movement. I was calling it Zodiac dance at the time. But then I thought, oh my God, there's this other Jungian analyst who combined movement and she's calling it authentic movement. That's what I'm doing. Cool. So that was, I think, when did I find that out? I think that's when I moved to San Francisco. I discovered that there actually was and it was happening in San Francisco. So I was like, that's why I ended up in San Francisco.
Yeah, I remember, do you remember, what year we met? So you moved to San Francisco, and then how long were you there before we met?
I think I met you almost immediately.
That is so fascinating.
Yes.
Because it was almost like I remember you coming in, and you had been to that salon before, right? And then I don't know if it's like you booked with me or like we like ran into each other. I can't remember those details, but I just remember like being. That's what it was, and then we just like connected.
Yeah, I just loved you. Really, I was like, oh my God, like who is that? You were so. You still are. You're just the style and the aura, the energy. I just thought. I want that to be my stylist. Like, I just want that person to be my friend. Who is that person? Who is that creature? He's amazing. You were like a unicorn. You were so like, and you really like. Period.
I feel the same way with you. I remember that day at your apartment. I don't know if like you realize this or if I ever told you this, but like that day when we were at your apartment and I was going through something, right? And we weren't even having a full conversation about what was going on with me, but you were like, let's pull some cards. Like, I just feel like we should do this. And in that moment, because I always knew about astrology and kind of the realm, but I didn't realize how big the realm was and how important it was going to be for me. But like that day was like the start of my journey in astrology and all of this and how it's like become such an important part of my everyday. But it started that day.
I remember that moment at my table like it was yesterday. I remember because you hadn't really opened up to me what was going on, but I remember I could feel something was upsetting you, and I wanted to just find a dialogue with your soul about it because I could just feel like maybe you didn't even have the words for it yet, like you were still processing it. And I just remember I said, let's just look into this. And had you not had a reading before? A tarot reading yet? I love that. I thought it was your first reader, but I didn't want to say that. I thought that was your first reading. I love that. So what? Oh yeah, no. So I remember that. I think I also looked at your horoscope, didn't I? I know I wanted to. I think we were like kind of doing both things at that time. And I just remember like it really spoke to you. Whatever came out in that reading, it was like about you're about to go through a huge life change.
Yeah, I was like everything was gonna change, and I had never made like that huge of a change like all at once, and I had so much fear around it because of what our industry, the beauty industry, like was then. It's like if you left somewhere, then you would be like, like casted off and like no one would hire you. And that's what I thought, and other things too. But then you said that, and it wasn't even you said to do anything specifically. You were just like, you really have to like just move forward with whatever you feel is right for you and other things. But it's like, that's what I heard. I was like, it was really empowering to make that step.
Remember now that we saw in the cards how important the transition was going to be, and that it was going to definitely be an upgrade for you. I do remember that. And it was scary because you weren't sure. You were like, it kind of came out of nowhere. And I don't remember the sequence. Like, I can't remember if when we did the reading, you had already gotten the news that something big was going to change, or you saw it in the cards. Do you remember that? Do you remember that?
No, it was not even that. Like, it was like me making the step. Like, the step I saw in front of me, but I didn't know how to take the step because I had so much fear around it. And do you remember we even did like the forecasting a little bit? Like, you forecasted something. I don't remember what that was exactly, but you went ahead a little bit and you were like, like, there was this thing that you said that there was something that would be like super shifting, that it would like, it's either going to go two ways, right? And it was massive, right? And I literally, before what I feel was that thing that shifted me was, I think it really was like my mom, like, transitioning, and because everything was so aligned, right? And everything was just flowing right. And then there was this thing that happened that was either it's going to cripple me or I'm going to like find my way through it,
Yes.
And then with that, it was like, my mom passed away on April 4th, right? And then we got the call about Matthew on April 23rd, the same month. So it was like this like beautiful like shifting of energy that like he was that thing to come and redirect.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think when we did the reading, maybe we did more than one reading, because it feels like there was a series of things that were setting up your new life. There was like a bunch of changes. Like, I remember it was like a little bit of a unfolding. But there was something that came, I don't remember what it was, but there was something that came out in the reading where, I guess because it was predictive. I don't remember what it was, but that's what you were like, okay, now I'm into the cards, because like you were like, how did the cards know that was coming?
Yeah. It's just amazing. And that leads me, I guess, to this next question that I really feel like is like, a lot of people that I know, and I don't think everyone should be a believer in astrology, because I think everyone has space to believe in whatever it is they want to believe in, but I really feel like, in your opinion, like, do you feel like you, the person, like, as the astrologer, and then me as the person taking the information, do you feel like everyone needs to kind of be at a level of like understanding before they move in? Or do you feel like it's something that like you meeting someone that has never been in astrology, like, do you feel like there is a level, I guess more now in today, and because astrology is so important or so big at the moment, but do you feel like it's better for everyone to be educated a little bit before they start the journey?
Not at all. In fact, that's actually a hindrance, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. So, and I think my job is to be able to communicate and translate the horoscope for someone who knows nothing, and that's, sometimes I have to spend some of the session undoing some false ideas people have, like negative ideas they have that they've seen on the internet about their sign, or about like a certain transit coming up. People will come to me like, I just saw this video and it's saying like it's the end of the world. There's all these like clickbait videos that are like 2026, like that's it, the beginning of the end. So I feel like I do undo a lot more than educate, in the sense of like, meaning I don't feel like, I never would expect someone to come to a session and like they have to already speak the language, because really astrologers should be able to translate it into it'd be kind of like a doc. I guess if you went to a doctor and they started speaking to you instead of telling you what really is going on, they were like, okay, and your L2, blah, 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 whatever, So if an astrologer does that and the person's like, I don't know what you're talking about, then I think that's a problem. Like, I don't know what that means, that my Uranus in Aquarius is squaring my Neptune in Taurus or whatever, so we have to break it down. You have to be able to interpret it in a way that somebody who's never seen a chart. I get a lot of people who've never had their chart read before.
Do you find it difficult now with like everyone being so like absorbed in whatever they think astrology is to be an astrologer right now?
Yes. Yes and no. I mean, it's hard for me because I want to like go, oh my gosh, because there's just so much stereotyping going on. I mean, some of it's fun. I enjoy it too, where it's like the signs as everything you can imagine. Like, this is how the signs walk across the street. This is how how each sign would break up. This is how each sign would go on vacation, It's entertaining. But there's so much more to astrology. I like it to become entertaining. I mean, it's entertaining even for me, so I'm not putting that down. But I think a lot of us astrologers out there do struggle with how a lot of it has become so commercialized in a way that obviously the depth of it and the complexity and the subtlety of it is compromised in these shorts. You see that. So as long as people realize it's more entertainment than like all that astrology has to offer you.
Right. And it's like you mentioned, like there's so much clickbait available, and if we react or hold on to every piece that we see, like, we're going to go nuts, and it's like, how could anyone keep their sanity at all? But, I loved hearing your experience, Sherene, of how you were seeking and you found, your destiny, like through just, traveling and discovering dance and finding yourself, in San Francisco and now beyond. And it's so sweet to hear your guys' story, because there's so many like times in our life where people are so important, and for you and Coco to have that friendship and for him to really have somebody like you, in his life at such a pivotal time and critical time of life changing. It's so sweet. And I've always, before I got the chance to meet you, I've always had just heard so many, stories about my friend Sherene, and it was just like, he literally lights up at the mention of your name. And it's amazing to just be here with you, and I just thank you so much for being here on Cocoism, the podcast.
Oh, this is like a dream. I love it. I love being with you guys. I was excited about it all day because for me it's nighttime here in India, and I'm staying up late for you guys. No, I love it. I'm a night person anyway. I am a night person, so this is the best time for me. It's actually perfect. But I felt the same way about Coco because, when I first moved to San Francisco, I didn't really know anybody. I mean, I had a great community in New York City that I developed over 23 years. And then I went to San Francisco and I think I knew like 2 people. So it was so comforting to meet Coco. And it was something that, like, coming to see you, it was so grounding and gave me such a sense of a ritual that it was one of the only comforting things while I was going through the transition of trying to build my life in San Francisco. Because it was scary at first,
I mean, mentioning Sherene, mentioning like coming into a new year, so many people are vulnerable. I don't know, at the start for many different reasons. Whether it's political, emotional, maybe love, all financial, all kinds of things. Like coming into the new year, How can we, or how can you share with us a little bit of insight as we travel through these chaotic days?
Yes. Well, I was just having a conversation with a client about this reset, the Great Reset, they're calling it, which is happening on February 20th. I don't know if you guys have been seeing all the astrologers talk about this big, once in a lifetime merger between the planets Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, which is the last sign of the zodiac. And on the 20th, so they're right in the end of the zodiac now. And then on February 20th, they're joining up at 0 degrees of Aries in Western tropical astrology, which is the 0 point. I mean, it's like a reset of our consciousness. And we don't even have a template to understand exactly what that's going to look like or how that's going to impact our lives, which is kind of exciting because there is a reset. I feel we're getting a spiritual upgrade, and there's something with our consciousness where on a very, very subtle level, something is being completely redesigned, I feel. That part is exciting. I don't know how it's going to play out, but I feel the people that are more oriented toward the mystical and magical will really come full Technicolor alive. And the people that are more in the fear, I do think that divide between fear and love is already, you can feel the chasm growing, right? But this is just my intuition. This is based on nothing because we have nothing to compare this transit to in history. It feels like it's going to be something quite messy at first, already like chaotic, as you said, but you can kind of see that at the same time, and there has been this interesting duality, right, where there's a lot of magic happening at the same time there's all this horror happening. I think we almost have to. You see that in history all the time. The greatest wars, the greatest art is happening at the same time for survival, if nothing else, right? To keep us sane and having meaning and purpose to get through the really dark times that we can't make sense of. So I also think that it's also happening, this the great reset, as we're calling it, the great conjunction between Saturn and Neptune, is happening right after the new moon solar eclipse on the 17th, which is also Chinese New Year, the year of the fire horse, which is very exciting. And lots of changes with eclipses always. So all of those things, that confluence of events happening so close to each other in the cosmos, reflected here in our lives, we can't help but think it's going to be quite dramatic and life-altering in a way that we've never seen before. So I think depending on where we put our imagination, where we put our energy, we're part of co-creating. So I think what you guys are doing, even with this podcast, is part of what's keeping, things like this are what keeps the magic and the positive energy to offset all the gloom and doom that's surrounding us. You guys are keeping it in the
Thank you. I love that you mentioned Neptune and Saturn as it changes from Pisces to Aries. I was just talking about it with a friend. How do you see this unfolding within on a personal level and as a human collective?
Personally, I think it's asking all of us to have a completely new identity in a way. So meaning we can't take the old narratives forward with us anymore. That whether we were playing small or we were, again, operating from a base of fear, I don't think that's going to work anymore. If we cling to that, I think it's going to be a problem. I think if we cling to the love, and I think if we are willing to be open to, when I say new identity, it's like recreating yourself moment by moment, like really being in the present, That's real creativity, isn't it? So if we're still like carrying around all our stories and resentments and fears and blames and guilt and shame and all that stuff, like we're working, not to say like we should spiritually bypass that. We have to do the work. We have to do deeper work, but we can make this, I think both personally and collective, we can make this intention to be present. And not, if it's not in our present, I mean, if it's in our present, we have to work through it, absolutely. But why are we dragging all this stuff with us? You know, and that's the old identity, like who we were when we were suffering, who we were when we were not where we wanted to be, who we were when we were attached to a story that was really making us miserable, you know, or addictions that were making us miserable, or bad relationships, or self-sabotaging patterns. Like, can we really leave that behind? Because the last year, the 2025 year, was the year of the snake, and it was all about shedding all of that. So we had to do all of the difficult work of like, what's it going to take to let that go? So that's not a spiritual bypassing. What kind of shadow work do I have to do? What do I have to look at that's keeping me stuck in these old stories? And then this negativity, like I just can't, you know, especially Pisces is a victim archetype, that has to go, meaning, I mean, obviously there are people who are actually victimized, but there's a way that we can cling to like not stepping into accountability and responsibility and just being like, as I do it, I'm the victim, right? I don't think that's going to work so well. That's my intuition. And it's no judgment against anyone who struggles and still feels victimized. That's legit. I'm talking about, you know, when people can use it to manipulate. And we've all been there. We've all done it. That's not a judgment. But just to say, I think for all of us, we have to, I've been saying, like, I've been going to like the Bruce Lee teachings. He's got amazing teaching. And I feel like it's so aligned with the Fire First Year. He's really like, and it's also like, lift yourself up by yourself. Like, you can do it. Like, you have to be the one to like hold yourself accountable and live up to your potential. You have to think of it as training. You can't wait until you feel ready. You have to just do it. And you have to do it so that you feel ready. And you have to keep showing up.
Sherene, who did you just mention? Can you repeat?
Of course,
name?
yeah, Bruce Lee. The martial artist so he's kind of this icon. You have to look him up if you don't know him. He's amazing. And he's got his martial arts was called Jungian Do, I think. Something like that. But it sounds like he's reading like the Tao Te Ching or some kind of really deep philosophical wisdom. He was like an amazing soul, and he was like a movie star. He was cool. He was really cool.
You have a Bruce Lee jacket.
I do, and I have a book as well.
Period. we went to an auction. And you can't take him to an auction because he'll like bid on everything. And we actually like won pretty much everything that he bid on.
And it's unintentionally.
And it was this whole Bruce Lee set of like a skateboard and a jacket and like a book.
No way.
And it was really
His
cool.
stuff you have?
Yeah. But it's just like, yeah.
You have Bruce Lee skateboard in your house? Get out. Bruce Lee skateboard in your house? Get out.
Yeah, I do.
Shut up. I gotta come.
And an amazing, like, it's pretty amazing. And I'm so glad that I have it because
oh my god.
I really want to look into the book that I have of.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that is so cool.
Totally.
Very auspicious that you have that. Yeah. Oh my god, that's so cool. I want Bruce Lee's skateboard. I feel like you have to just get the energy. He was so powerful. They tell this story in one interview where I guess he was so upset because he could always defeat his opponent like in less than, I don't know, like definitely way under a minute. I think like in seconds, you know, like nobody could even touch him. Just like, you know. And like there was one fight where I think it took him like a minute or 3 minutes or something, and he went like he was so devastated, and he went into like full training mode after that. Like he was just like that cannot happen. I mean, he was really strong.
Sherene, I wanted to ask you, could you explain a little bit more about Jungian psychology or
Of
that
course.
method?
Of course. So, what drew me to Jungian psychology, especially, was the overlap with Eastern philosophy and more of a spiritual approach to psychology instead of diagnosing people and looking at the psyche as fixed, that something wrong. It's more oriented toward wholeness and the archetypal symbols of the self, which means understanding the language of the unconscious through your dreams, through synchronicities or omens, as we call it, that happen in your everyday life, to understanding that there's like a greater force, whether you want to call it the self with the capital S or spirit or source, some people call it source, that's actually running the show through the unconscious. You know, it's like really what's behind our destiny. You know, until like his most famous quote that I love is that until you make the unconscious conscious, you will experience your destiny as fate, meaning like you'll call it fate, whereas if you become conscious, you can change your destiny by virtue of becoming conscious. What dreams are trying to help us do. We just don't know the language. And for me, I needed a form of psychology that would be compatible with my interest in metaphysics. And so anyone who's really into metaphysics, whether it's astrology or tarot or I Ching, these different oracles, they usually find their way to Jungian psychology because it embraces all of that. He was interested in all of that. And Joseph Campbell was really big in the 80s when I was growing up. And he was my intro to that, and my first boyfriend. He was this artist, and he was really into Jungian psychology. So that combo, I was like, oh, what's this about? This is really cool. I've got to find out more about that. And then later on, it came out that he was even more mystical than they let on in the beginning, because his Red Book came out, and he was this amazing artist and very mystical. I mean, to the point where he was afraid of being judged as a little crazy. So he kept that Red Book under wraps until 2010-ish came out finally. Can you imagine after his death, it took that long before they felt comfortable to put that out in the public?
Wow.
That's so cool. I love hearing about that.
It's interesting.
I love it.
That it's you know, when we were together last, you know, we like you sprinkled in a little bit of this, and it, like, honestly, like I just you forget that I forgot that there's Western and Eastern, right? And astrology. And when you were talking about my Eastern, and you said my emotions are in Pisces, and I feel like my whole existence was like, oh shit, like that makes so much sense.
Yes, like, and that you're actually a Leo rising.
Surprise.
You feel so much more Leo than Virgo.
I was like, okay.
I'm sorry, I hope it's okay that I announced that.
No, please.
It's a rock star. I mean, Leos are just like rock stars, you know.
It's so interesting. Like, could you tell me again what that was again? It was a Pisces. Was it Pisces, like, emotionally? Is that what you said?
Pisces is your moon. Yeah, your emotions, like your deeper Pisces moon.
So not crazy.
Yes,
super
compassionate. Really is.
Yeah. Super sensitive. Yeah.
Hella. And it made so much more sense, because I kind of lived in this space of, like, you know, just what I thought, and then that kind of like put like clarity to like my confusion that I've had. You know, And do you think that like, so random question. So say if like you were to talk to someone and go through reading and say something you said to them was like, oh, that didn't happen. When people say things like that, what do you think that comes from? Like what would be your answer if someone was like, "Hey, girl, like we have this talk and like this didn't happen"? Like, what would you say? Like, is that like more of like a, there's so many pieces to the puzzle, or like what? How would you approach that?
Wait, so what do you mean? Like,
So imagine someone did a reading with you and they were like, they thought they
yeah.
heard something. And
Oh, if they say it didn't happen what I predicted, you mean?
yeah. Like, well, how do you like step into that?
I have, luckily, and I mean this, I'm totally honest, and I will qualify this. I haven't experienced that, which is great. I actually have not experienced that version, but I have experienced something similar, which is people coming to me like, this happened and you didn't tell me. Like, did you see this coming in my chart? Why didn't you warn me about it? Like, you were talking about something else and then this thing happened, or why didn't especially if it's something really bad. And the truth is, because when people come to me for a reading, the chart is infinite, first of all. And depending on what they're coming to me for, I'm focused on that. I'm focused on where they're at. I'm meeting them where they are and what they're going through. I'm not looking for negative. Why would I be looking for some hidden tragic potential thing? If I see that, I will tell it. But like, usually when something like that happens, I'll be looking at one aspect of the chart. They might be coming in for a relationship reading, and then they find out they have a health condition. And they say, why didn't you tell me? Well, because we were focused on a relationship reading, like that. And I feel bad because I'm like, well, maybe I should always just check. But then I think, even if I see that, I don't know if I want to tell people, because, again, it's not, with the chart, it doesn't mean like 100% that's going to happen, because a negative influence in the chart can manifest in many different ways, and I don't want to plant that seed, because what if there is a divine intervention? Or who knows? Unless I see like there's a day where there's some danger, I can warn somebody, like, maybe I do. I'll say like, that's probably not a good day to travel, or lay low, like a little bit accidental energy or something like that. I will warn. But things like, I don't know. I do that. That's kind of a tricky element or situation where there's things that can come up that I don't see in the chart, like that, like something, or like, let's say somebody's like, I just had this death in the family. Why didn't you tell me that? We were talking about my career. Well, because we were focusing on your career. So it's hard, it'd be like, I guess, when you go to certain doctors, you're going for like a specialist, right? And astrology is challenging because we're trying to look at we're looking at the cosmos, basically. And we're trying to translate that for people in a microcosm. That's really challenging. So it really is meeting that person in the moment. And even when the person comes for a reading, that tells me actually a lot of like what I'm supposed to share with them. I look at the chart of that moment to see why they came. And that kind of blows people away, because they're like, I didn't even realize, but yeah, that's actually why I came to this reading, because a lot of times things will get rescheduled, or there'll be some issue, and then you see, it was meant to happen on this day because the astrology is this way and it's going to influence the conversation in this way. I mean, it's that interesting and mystical. It really is. So when the reading happens, the day influences it. Like the day of the week, a planet is ruling each day of the week, a different planet. Like today we're doing our interview on a Mars day on a Tuesday. So that's going to influence what we talk about. And we're talking a lot about Mars things. Like we're talking about movement, Bruce Lee. Are people going to get angry with me if I don't get it right? And also, I don't work so much in like, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. I'm more of because of the psychological background, I like to look more at cycles, and I like to look at more around where people have blind spots, or where, how that chart can help them to become more conscious you know, and more creative and more alive versus like, I'm definitely not into like doom and gloom readings. I don't see how that's helpful. You're going to get ratings on your YouTube channel. Oh, hello.
Yeah, and I think that any I don't know, person that is just starting their journey, and any of our listeners that like maybe aren't particular into astrology, I think that was a really great like view into like, you know, like not going in with all of these expectations and really just going in open and, you know, and available for it's just like for our listeners, just really them knowing that like astrology is something you go into totally open, no expectation, and just ready to like, you know, obviously you're not going to get all the answers, but it's a journey, right? It's like doing yoga. It's like you're a student forever, you know? And I think it's an important practice to just keeping.
Yes, and you know, some people are intimidated to come for a reading because they fear they're going to get bad news. And that's why a lot of people won't go because they're like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know if something bad coming. That makes me sad because that's really not the purpose of reading. It should be there to uplift you, to enlighten you, to give guidance and direction, to help you understand like your high cycle, your low cycle, best times to do things, best times to lay low. You know, when you're going to have breakthroughs, when you're going to have a big change.
Powerful. Powerful, powerful, powerful.
So powerful. It's just like, it feels so good because we work with our astrologer, Sarah, and we recently we charted like a year forecast. And it was my first time doing that. And I love that it's so visual because it's like, you're able to see month to month kind of what you're welcoming into the month and what you're also saying goodbye to, right? And how we talked about these really like amazing friendships and relationships, you know, like having somebody like you and Sarah in our lives. It's like, you know, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. I'm so lucky because it gives so much. And we just completed like our vision board for the year. And again, like I hadn't done that, I don't know, since I was maybe young. And so I have all these things that are giving me some sort of like preparedness, you know. It's consciousness, you know, it's a connection to spirituality. And with that, like I'm focused on like kindness and generosity, and also having the power within myself to take on every day, whatever that task or whatever is being given to me. And I'm really connected spiritually, like for the first time, I feel like in my life, in a way that it's being carried with me, or it's with me every moment that I'm here. So to like be here in this time of, you know, our lives, and to like have this experience, I did want to know, like, what is spirituality to you at this point in your life, knowing that you've harnessed so many different, you know, traditions and beliefs, and you've traveled so many parts of the world. And how do you encompass like your spirituality, and like how do you carry that?
I love that question. Thank you. I think the deeper I go into it, it gets more childlike, simple. And my spiritual teacher here, the Divine Mother, her religion is love and compassion, so I have a great teacher that keeps it without ego, keeps it all about serving people. I think for me, I would say spirituality is service, compassion, being present, being in the moment, and spontaneous, and putting love into everything you do. And putting other people, that's a tricky one. I don't want to say where people become, people struggle with this in a way. So I'm not going to say it that way, but let's say it this way. Giving more than you take.
Oh, that's so much. Because it's so true. It's like, it's the community it's that you choose to have and the space you choose to carry. It's, whatever I've always been such a believer is like, whatever, if I love and respect myself, then I can love and respect others. And I think that like really living in that, you really see the people around you and how that community can be small or big, depending on the person. But it's like the people that you hold close, like give, love, receive, respect, guide, learn, teach, all at once together, Yeah.
Yeah, it's a time we need each other more than ever. I think the other thing I feel for 2026 is going back. It might just be the Gen Xer in me, like people make fun of us, but that I want to go back to in-person meetings and pen and paper and old-fashioned things, vintage things.
Like, as humans, I feel like there's this also big shift to like really go back to community and go back to like interacting and face to face and like, pen to paper, like you said, and childlike simplicity. Like, I just like, these are like all huge things that I'm going to take from this moment here with you, because those are the things, like all the other stuff clouds it, right? But it all can just be so simple.
Well, that's what you see with the great spiritual masters. They're like children, not childish, but childlike. They're very simple, and there's no ego, and you just see how beautiful that is. It's pure sweetness. It's irresistible.
I'd love to know, in this year, what are you creating currently? What do we have to look forward to? Seeing you out in the world, creating such beauty and peace.
Thank you. Okay, well, my energy is, and my heart is really mostly in mentoring this year. I'm doing a lot of mentorship work. I'm opening up. It's online, fortunately and unfortunately, because I'm at least half the year in India. So it's my first group Jungian astrology mentorship, which is starting in March, called the Starry Labyrinth. I'm very excited about that, to help people that are interested in understanding the connection between Jungian psychology and astrology, or how they could apply that to other things, like whether they're doing coaching or just for their own life or anything they're teaching. It's such a rich language to understand yourself and understanding other people. So I'm really excited to share it. And I've been already mentoring people one-on-one, but I'm going to have my first group cohort that I've had since I lived in San Francisco. I had one in person there. So that's exciting. And then otherwise, movement and retreats are my other passion, bringing people together to do the deep inner work and also have beauty and creativity and self-expression and dance. That's my favorite thing. When you can be in a magical setting and have this really focused time together, this retreat, in sacred space together. So any way I can do that, wherever, like I look for magical locations. So those are and I also to finish my book. I really hope. I'm trying to finish this book on authentic movement.
You're going to finish.
Since 2020.
You got this. We're saying it out loud. You're going to finish.
And I have this like one more question that it came up just in the end of the last thing we were talking about, and I know this may, if it's hard to answer or it can't be answered, that's okay too. Just say that's kind of somewhere we can't touch. But as we go into 2026, and then we think of the word like ego, like what is one thing or two things or whatever that someone could do to kind of like to know how to like step away from living their lives to their existence or their space in their ego? Like what's something that there could be like a check-in for them this year?
That's an awesome question too, because it's so important. I think getting out of our preoccupation with the self, like not in the deeper way self, but like all the kind of neurotic preoccupations, where we're just like here, right? Versus thinking of what you can do to help someone else or how to create purpose and meaning in your life. The ego is just actually making us very small. And it can make us very insecure, it can make us very inflated. And the only way really to banish the ego, I don't know, to at least hush the ego. It's very difficult, it's very relentless. But to have the spirit dominate, your true spirit, your true heart. Really, the heart is the enemy of the ego. Or Jung said that every victory of the self, which is the deeper true self, which is you in your truth, is a defeat for the ego. So one way is really living your truth, which means being really honest with yourself. And then, as we were speaking about earlier, which kind of goes back to Course in Miracles teachings, are you choosing fear or are you choosing love? When you're choosing fear, you're in the ego. And there's also that beautiful acronym where they say the ego is like easing God out. So it's like anything it's like taking credit for things, not realizing that there's a greater source behind what we do. That's a big thing. Like my teacher here, Alma, always reminds us, like, if God decided, like if we open our mouth to yawn and God decided that you're not going to close your mouth, you won't close your mouth. Like, even that's a grace. And we forget that. And if we doubt that, all you have to do is see. She also tells this story all the time about how somebody could be like, hey, I'll meet you. I'm coming down the stairs. I'll be there in a second. And then they could have a heart attack on the way down. So that's very humbling for the ego, because it reminds us that we're not in control. We don't know when that's going to happen. We're not controlling that. And in the same way, all the greatness of what we create, there's a force that's moving through us that's bigger than us, and we can't take credit for that. If we do, we miss the point. And it keeps us small, and it keeps us on that roller coaster. Because if we say, I'm just an instrument in the hands of the divine, we're always in the magic. And we're always grateful.
That magic was such a big word on my my vision board, and I'm just like, it's delicious. It is like all of the beauty that we want to be is like that, and just accepting that, like all of that we have, and just releasing it and creating things. And even if the creation is you on your own doing something for yourself that like makes you feel really good, like that's enough. It doesn't have to be like this where we're sharing with people outside of us. It can, because I also think that if you do that for yourself, it is like a love letter to yourself, so that you can like then go out into the world and just do that much more and be that much more present. So good. Yeah.
Shireen, I'm so touched right now by the moment.
Yeah.
And what a gift for the listeners and the audience of Cocoism, the podcast. It's been a beautiful chat.
Yeah.
And
for me too.
Yeah, it's been incredible. I mean, literally all the blessings to you, like in everything that you're doing, and all the safety and love, and we can't wait to see you. I have to see you the next time you're here.
Oh my gosh.
And
I know, definitely.
And I can't wait. And thank you again.
We will.
We will. Like,
I'll
too
be there
many
longer.
things.
Right.
You're too many things. We're all too many things. So let's be
too many things
together. Shireen, love you so much.
Yay, we love you.
Love you so
much. Queens in full bloom. I'm a cocoa sipping tea from across the room. She leaned in like, that's your man, no doubt. Then flipped her fan and walked